gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
Are you a big Ransom Canyon guy? Ransom Canyon?
Remind me, what is Ransom Canyon? I've heard it.
It's a streaming show.
Yeah.
Minka Kelly and Josh Duhamel.
That's right. I've seen that on Josh Duhamel's Instagram. Bumper-to-bumper guest.
Apparently, season 2 brings new romance to Ransom Canyon. I don't think I've watched an episode of it.
No, I've just seen him post about it.
Okay.
Minka Kelly, I believe, a former girlfriend of Jeet's.
Oh.
I believe.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, I'm playing the odds.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, star of the 90s and 2000s.
Cameos by Thomas Rhett and Jordan Davis. Those names mean anything to you?
Thomas Rhett, country artist, I believe.
Okay.
Don't know about Jordan Davis.
Interesting.
I'm probably forgetting.
That's a good name for a series. Ransom Canyon.
It's good.
Seems rich.
Yeah. And
So
Duhamel
is it
seems
one of those,
like a canyon guy.
Modern day westerns that's gotten bigger and bigger?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ransom Canyon. Anyway.
But Duhamel is a rustic kind of guy.
That's true.
You know, we lost ourselves in his eyes at the State Fair booth a few years ago when he came in to promote Buddy Games, the CBS show. Handsome fella.
Can't argue with it.
Let's talk about the Twins. They won yesterday, 11-8. Jeffers, who is going to be traded for a Ransom Canyon ransom, by the way.
Well, it better be.
Because I think another team just had an injury contender. Their catcher just got hurt.
You're right.
I don't know who it is, but I did see that in the Twitter sphere over the weekend.
And we have no choice but to move them because we
have to.
We're not going to be able to afford them. So forget what impact that might have on the team the rest of this season. It's it's beyond even the realm of our imaginations to consider actually ponying up and signing him.
The Twins are within a game of 500 now after taking 2 of 3.
Even though he's good.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
Yeah. They win yesterday, and they've got a day off today. They're enjoying a day off. They are a game behind Cleveland for the final wild card spot and have an opportunity to maybe jump in there this week because the Kansas City Royals come to town tomorrow night, and the Royals are no good. No bueno.
I think we've won, is it 4 of our last 5? You know, so we've been up, we've been down. We're playing crappier teams again.
Exactly. That's why we have the window.
Trade deadline, is it a week from tomorrow?
A week from today, I think.
From today?
I think a week from right now. Yeah, it's either right now or earlier in the show, but It's August 3rd.
August 3rd, so it's right around the corner.
We got a time.
We'll know soon enough. I guess. Who do we have over the weekend? Do we know? Do we play anybody good over the weekend?
Let me pull up the schedule here because I just looked ahead to the Royals. We are on the road against Seattle, who's not bad.
Should the State Fair T-shirt be "Think About It," Dan?
Think about this.
Think about this, Dan.
Think about it.
It's too inside, I think.
Yeah.
It's good, but it's, yeah.
There was a lot of momentum late in the week for FDS.
Yes.
Could
Fan
we change
derangement
it to
syndrome?
BDS, Barrero derangement syndrome?
We could do that too, yeah. If it's more specific.
Yeah, I was talking to Barb about it, and she said, well, then it got political. I go, no, it's always political.
It never stops being political.
Yes, everything is political. So maybe we just have to lean into the political. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to think about it. We don't have a lot of time to think about it.
No, we don't.
That's the amazing part.
We're probably past time to think about it.
Probably are.
For all I know. So Seattle's who we play next week.
Okay.
In case you're wondering. Why don't we, because we don't have a ton of time. Did you hear about the Eric Bieniemy story?
Yeah, this is not good.
This is a horrible story. The former Vikings running backs coach in the Chili era, multiple-time offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. He's recently gone back to Kansas City to coach again with Andy Reid. His wife, Mia, 57, the report was this morning, had been shot at the family's home in Virginia last night. That was the original story. And then shortly thereafter, Elijah Zion Bieniemy, 27, their son, was arrested and charged with malicious wounding, use of a firearm in commission of a felony, and discharge of a firearm inside of a dwelling. And that's the story right now. That Elijah shot his mom in the chest and arm. She apparently is being treated for serious injuries, but is in stable condition as of when this story was released earlier this morning.
Yeah, I don't even know. You don't even want to begin to project or speculate, but anything that goes this way with this level of violence, I can't even imagine what's going through the heads of all the individuals who are involved here. How old is the son?
27.
He's an adult, right? You said, okay, 27.
Yep, 27.
Yeah. So she is, I think, in serious condition but stable. That's what you said?
Yes, and Andy Reid, here's just a quick quote. Our hearts go out to Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah.
Mia is stable, which is a plus. We all love EB, and you hate seeing these things happen.
Yeah, it's awful. I just hope the family can work their way through whatever here. And the ramifications of, think about your own child being involved as, in Eric Bieniemy's case, capable of this kind of alleged behavior is it's almost unspeakable.
Let's stay on schedule for this hour. We got Johnny at the bottom. The keyword, thefanandbigdeck.com. I want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest, and credit is the final keyword of the afternoon. Go to KFAN.com. Enter the keyword credit.
As Gaardsy mentions, we'll get to Krasinski at about 5:30. We will come back with Ode to a Dead Guy. That's next.
You're listening to Barrero on The Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center.
This report.
And now, it's time for Ode to a Dead Guy.
News breaking yesterday, although it appeared almost inevitable in the days before, that things are not going good for University of Minnesota legendary baseball coach John Anderson, that he indeed did pass away. And in fact, I received, Gaardsy, during sermons, a text from someone wondering if I was going to talk about it, and I didn't, not because I didn't have any awareness, but because nothing was confirmed and official on that, and out of respect for everybody involved. I think the standard certainly needs to be a little too late is better than too soon on something, on a subject that difficult. But the story is indeed official. He passed away Sunday at the age of 71 years old, the Big Ten career victories leader. And there's a lot I can give you. I mean, he had been battling, he had a bad heart situation, I think Wednesday, going into cardiac arrest. And even then, the concern was that he might not be able to come out of it. That there was a good chance that he was not going to be able to recover. And so he lost his life yesterday. Spent 43 years as the head coach of the Gophers. He retired after the 2024 season. But to be honest with you, the best ode I could give you is one offered up via a texter, Bronco Nagurski guy. I played ball for number 14, John Anderson, as classy a man as there ever was, seen as a legendary coach to so many, and he was that, a great man, an even better leader, a true leader of men that knew how to surround himself with good people, a father figure who treated his players like men, regarded them as grown sons. For 18 to 22-year-olds, he was the leader that few of us really had up to that point in our lives. Playing baseball for him and the Gophers changed my life. As a coach, I have found much success in treating young people in the same manner as 14 treated his boys. He helped change the life trajectory of people he never met through the young men he coached. His work lives on, a true legend, a true Iron Ranger. Thoughts and prayers to his wife and daughter from all Gopher baseball players. Thank you for sharing him with us. That's as good a tribute as you could possibly
awesome.
get. Yeah. And I don't know, I mean, you've been around Gopherville for a while.
Yeah.
How well did you get to know him, would you say?
I mean, I wouldn't claim to be one of his close personal friends,
right,
but I probably talk to him at least once a year, like on the record.
Right.
And then we obviously spent a bunch of time on the road in the Gopher coaches caravans. And I was thinking I went through, because I was trying to remember all the different times I talked to him. And certainly over the last decade, and his last 5 or 6 years as coach, it was probably 8 to 10 times. And every single time I talked to him, I learned, it's like Louis. You hear a story that you've never heard before and you can't believe it. But when you've done something for 50 years, it makes a ton of sense. And the ones I was thinking about was, first of all, my favorite John Anderson memory was the Gopher coaches caravan. We went up to Hibbing, which is where he was from. And Grimm made the mistake of not just doing a Q&A with John Anderson. And I don't even know if he had a choice, because John took the mic, and like 45 minutes later, like Fleck and Patino are still standing over there. But he's in his hometown.
Yes.
And he wanted to talk about what the range meant to him and what Hibbing meant to him, and that he, like everybody back then, was a multi-sport athlete. I didn't know until that day he played junior college baseball, football, and hockey at Hibbing Junior College before he came down here, and just talked about how much it meant to him to be from Hibbing and to come down to the cities and do what he ended up doing. But because of his hockey connection and the fact that he liked it so much, he told me one time, and this just came out in a podcast, and I remember the room we were sitting in, he used to just go hang out with Herb Brooks because he loved hockey so much and he loved coaching. And Herbie, as he said, would just let him hang out in Old Mariucci and then New Mariucci. And those two struck up kind of an unlikely friendship. But he was just a fun dude to talk about. And we would have him on the PA and Dubé show for the Dairy Queen Classic. You know, you'd have him on the Fan once or twice a year. They made the Super Regional in 2018. That was a huge deal. But it was more fun to listen to Paul Molitor talk about him, you know, his teammate, or Glenn Perkins, who coached him, even the coach now. He's just a larger-than-life dude. One of those guys like you hear about growing up, and then you get to meet him and stuff. It was just really a pleasure. And part of the reason he retired, Grim and I were talking over the weekend, is he said, you know, I want to live my life. And that's the saddest part, that was 2 years and change ago. And that's kind of why he was getting out and said, I got life to live here. And unfortunately, he didn't have that much time left.
I had not spoken to him in years. I don't know when the last time was. But in the Inkstein Wretch days, I talked to him more because, frankly, he became, among other things, a very good source on University of Minnesota athletic stuff.
He was not shy about his opinions on that
exactly
stuff.
Exactly it. He was very opinionated. He was very forceful.
Yep.
And it's often the case, I think, with so-called minor sports that don't get the recognition or the attention that obviously the football and basketball do, or even hockey here, that they have to marshal up the forces. They have to be their best advocate. And so a lot of stuff would be about AD situations, would be about frustrations he might have had in terms of leadership, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. He had that almost understated deadpan voice when I would talk to him on the phone. And, you know, he just strikes me again as, you know, you're not going to get the attention when you're not doing football, basketball, or hockey, obviously. But I view him as like one of those glue guys who finds a way, even in that environment, in baseball, in Minnesota, in the North, the frozen tundra North, to carve out a place, an identity for that program, right? For the baseball program here. He made it what it was. I mean, he's the guy who I think elevated it to a different place. And so he always had an interesting story or two to tell. There's no question. And he was forceful at times. He was very angry at times. He was very frustrated at times. If he didn't feel like his sport and other sports were properly represented, even if he had some understanding that, look, we get it, we're not the straw that stirs the drink, but he just became a fixture. One of those guys who just became somebody you just expected to be there, made the whole thing richer, even though, as I said, he's participating and leading players in a sport that is obviously not going to ever get as much attention as the major sports.
Oh, and we joke a lot about, calling the number thing, 14.
Yes.
And I think I even asked him about that. I go, when did that start? He's like, I have no idea. I don't care. It's my number. That's what they call me. But everybody called him that. Like, that's just what people called him. It was never John. It was never Coach Anderson. It was 14. It's apropos that texter wrote it in that way. And I thought Royce was spot on in his column talking about it meant a lot to him. Even I could tell that to get Siebert Field, the new Siebert Field.
Huge.
That was the thing, obviously, that he was forceful about was the old Siebert Field, it, like a lot of things, had been around for 65 years. It was not a good facility for Big Ten baseball. And he basically, I might be rewriting history, believing what I want to believe, but I don't think he had a ton of support to get that done. Outside of him just going, we got to do this.
No, that's true.
And it meant, I know, the world to him. He would always say, we now have a facility that befits the name of the man who's on it. And he would always call Siebert Chief. His, how people talk about 14, he would talk about Dick Siebert in that, he's the guy. He goes, I'm here. I've been here for 50 years. That's great. He goes, he's the guy that got this whole thing going. None of us would be here without him. And it bugged him to have Siebert's name on something that he thought was substandard. And he was I know for sure that meant a lot to him to get the new Siebert Field done. Like we said, with help from the baseball community. Obviously, Glenn Perkins again, built, a big part of that, or donated a big part of that. Like, it meant the world to him to actually get that thing done. And as Royce, you're right, probably saved the program in a way that it gave them a nice place to play and ability to keep the thing going.
Well, I think I'm sure this isn't necessarily a way he wanted to think, but that's the legacy that lives on, that he's directly connected to. That's, really good by college standards, right? Baseball park, ballpark
nice
facilities.
Yep, very nice.
And that's he's all, regardless of the name that's on it, he's largely responsible for that thing taking place. That's his connection that has already outlived him and will. That is why people will not forget the name. That's his, almost, you could say, his lasting gift, was how hard he worked, beat the bushes to get, to the right people, to get the thing, on its way to being built. That's a tremendous gift, above and beyond the gift that, as we heard from Texter guy, Bronco Nagurski guy, he gave to individual players as well. So definitely a significant loss to the University of Minnesota, to the entire state, from a sports standpoint, and a guy who he was just identified with the sport. He was identified. That was his thing.
Yep.
He was baseball. He was college baseball guy. And you can argue those are the sports that need that kind of allegiance and intensity and enthusiasm more, you could say, than the basketball coach, the football coach, etc. Because it's harder to carve out your spot,
right?
And he did that. And that the lasting legacy is that ball field that goes well beyond. We'll make this the bottom of the hour break. We'll come back and chat with Jonny Athletic. Any leftover LeBron stuff, any other Wolves news to get to, and who knows what else. Questions for Jonny, 64686.
This is Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barrera.
It's time for Jonny Athletic, Jonny Athletic, Jonny Athletic. And he's on with Dan Barrera right now.
If you have questions for Jonny, 64686 continues to be the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. LeBron's story, to a large extent, seems to be in the rearview mirror, as Jonny, as we welcome him via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Hold on a minute. I'll get there. It's not working for me on the mouse. Let's try it again. There we go. Jonny, is there anything, have we exhausted the LeBron story from a Minnesota standpoint, or is there any other place to go?
Yeah, I think we have, Dan. We had plenty of time over the last month to really kind of go over all the ins and outs of it. And I will say, just in having conversations with people in the aftermath of it, I don't think that there's anything that's really emerged as some sort of, clear-cut, big-time detail that either we weren't aware of or hadn't considered beforehand. It just, there is a little bit of lamenting on the Wolves side because he chose Philadelphia, because that really indicates that he was really valuing a winning team and a chance to go chase a title over most anything else, that, they just think that, man, if that Jaylen Brown trade hadn't happened, maybe they would have been in it in another way. But they're pretty much moved on now. Everyone's, I think, taking a little bit of a deep breath and just exhaling now, and just kind of going on about the business of trying to plan the rest of this roster and, get ready for training camp in 2 months now.
It is amazing from a Philadelphia standpoint if you're a Sixers fan, right, to go from a team that, had some young talent that was emerging, right, but had the ongoing question of really what does what does Paul George have left? And obviously what the center, how available he's going to be. And somehow you parlay that, you come out of that with one of the best two-way players in the league, in Jalen, and then you add, the best player of the generation, even though, he's not quite that good. He's still very good at an advanced age. I mean, that's about as dramatic a reversal as one can have in a single summer, isn't it?
It is. Like, I can't remember a more, a dramatic, significant, out of nowhere pivot, I would say, from a team that looked like it was really stuck. Of course, you liked Tyrese Maxey and DJ Edgecombe as young guards that are exciting and have something in them. But I think that once the season ended last year for the Sixers, you looked at the roster and you said, man, we have literally two of the top 5 worst contracts in the league in Paul George and Joel Embiid. And where are you going to go from there? And to be able to flip Paul George for Jaylen Brown, and, I think only one other first-round pick. I mean, it was a really small price to pay. And then to get LeBron James on a minimum deal, it's incredible. Like, they still have questions about Joel Embiid's health. They'll have to work out things about the fit, about how many shots each one gets and all of those things. But the energy that is infused into that team, for one that looked fairly dead in the water just a couple of months ago, it's pretty remarkable.
Is there any fantasy scenario through which Kuminga would come here for like $5?
I mean, you could argue, Dan, that he should. That this is a place when, if you're looking to repair value, if you're looking to bet on yourself and really kind of get yourself back into the good graces of the market, that come to Minnesota, play a bunch of minutes, play with a pass savant in LaMelo Ball, and probably score some points and be on a team that wins, and then maybe you can go back in to the market and get a bigger deal next summer. That should be something that he would consider, but that kind of representation group, and Jonathan Kuminga in particular, still seems to think that there's some magical $20 million a year offer out there. I don't know where it's coming from, but they're holding on to that hope some way, somehow, and seem to be, kind of hell-bent on looking elsewhere. But if I were the Kuminga camp, I would look at that and say, hey, let's go to a team that's going to win. You're going to get the ball. You're going to be able to play and contribute, and then go back in next year. But there's been a lot of people around the league that have questions about how that whole situation has been managed for the last couple of years, and I'm not holding my breath for something like that.
Did I see via photos, I think from the Wolves official site, a new look Anthony Edwards and perhaps even a new look Jaden from a hair standpoint, or am I hallucinating?
I've seen that Jaden had some braids, and I don't know if they've been kind of cut now or what. LaMelo definitely has changed his hair from last year to this year, and Ant as well, I think, a little bit. So yeah, maybe these guys are just turning over new leaves, and maybe the rest of the league just doesn't know what's about to hit it. I mean, if you got guys that are changing their look, that's a telltale sign that trouble's coming for the rest of the league right around the corner. So they should be shaking in trepidation right now, I think.
Do we have any confirmation yet on when they're allegedly all going to Gay Paris?
I don't know the exact dates yet, but I do know that they the Wolves social media put out some footage today of Ant and his pup around the practice facility.
Yeah,
so I think they're still in town. But I do think that I think it's coming up fairly soon, Dan, because I believe that Ant has a trip to the Philippines, I think, later in August. And so if he wants to kind of squeeze in a trip to Paris before then, probably a little bit under the gun here to get those guys going. But with the private jets and things like that, I think the travel's a little more convenient than for you and I. But I think fairly soon they'll be shipping out over there to see Rudy and get together in a Pecos River style kumbaya ceremony of sorts.
Let's put a lid on the LeBron story, at least for now, this way. Which team that either was or kind of was in allegedly in the LeBron James Derby. Which team is hurt the most by not getting him?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the Warriors, Dan. That is a team that everyone is long in the tooth there, and so really kind of going and getting LeBron, and it's maybe if they could have found a way to get Anthony Davis as well in some sort of deal there, felt like the last Hail Mary that they could throw up. Now they are just Steph and Draymond, and Jimmy Butler won't be back until well past the midpoint of the year, I don't think, and it's hard to just see where they're going. So I think that LeBron was the prayer for the Warriors, and for him to not answer that prayer and go, I don't think they were going to win regardless, but at least would have made them interesting. Now they're just kind of stuck where they are. Miami, I laugh at a little bit more because I just think like they constantly are saying we are this big, ultra attractive market and everyone loves us and everyone wants to play here, and almost no one ever does. Of course, they got Giannis in that trade, but they have swung and missed on so many other guys, and they continue to have this impression that they are some destination spot, and they continue to be kind of left at the altar time and time again, and they're just like sitting back saying, how can this happen? Well, they don't have enough talent, and so that one's a more entertaining one comedically. But the Warriors are clearly the one that are hurt the most by this.
I would argue, even if in the end we weren't that close to being the team, regardless of that, I think we are the one hurt the most because I still think Miami is going to have options, not as good, but they're going to be able to add another guy. I don't know about Golden State. You can speak to that more than me, and I don't even know about Cleveland. But that was the rub for the Wolves, right? It was LeBron James or nobody, at least based on what we think their limitations are at this point. So to me, in a sense, that means we were the ones that in that way probably are hurt more than any other team because there is no plan B or C.
Yeah, I mean, when you use that line of reasoning, there is something to it for sure. Certainly, like the difference between having LeBron James start at power forward for them next season and then having whether it's Terrence Shannon Jr. or Jalen Clark or Josh Green or Trey Lyles or whoever, the difference between those two is stark. But I still think that when you look at the rest of the roster, I mean, to have LaMelo Ball, to have Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Ayo Dosunmu, Julius Randle, I mean, they're just, or not Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, they're just so much more talented from 1 through 9 on this roster than Golden State is, than Miami is, than a lot of the teams that were in the running are. And so I just think that for especially Miami and Golden State, they needed LeBron James the most just to kind of give them any chance of being competitive. I think the Wolves will still go into next season believing that they can be competitive in the West and that, maybe they make a deal during the season and then they can be positioned to go deep into the playoffs. But with a core as young as they have, I don't think they are as beholden to getting LeBron as it was. But, the upside of LeBron coming there certainly would have been huge. I think you would have been talking about them as a favorite in the West if that did happen.
Let's widen out the discussion a little bit. Do we have any idea what is going on in the Kawhi Leonard investigation? Because I keep reading that, no, this is actually, the investigation is actually getting wider, and that might put off any final resolution, not even, let alone whatever punishment might be levied out here. What are you hearing on that front, and how ominous is this whole thing going to be once we get resolution?
Yeah, I'll be honest, Dan. Like when the first news came out that hey, the trade with Toronto and the Clippers is going to be on hold while they finish this investigation, I thought, okay, well, that means that maybe it'll just take another couple of weeks, and then we can tie a bow on all of it and move forward. However, the league is going to rule. But now, when you talk to people around the league about it, and even within the league offices, there is a sense that this might drag on quite a bit longer, and that there is no real light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the investigation. And to your point, that it is only expanding, and that they are continuing to look further and deeper into it, and they're still kind of in fact-finding investigation mode. They're not in conclusion-reaching mode at this point. And so it does seem like there actually is a chance, Dan, that this whole trade that happened might have to be unwound and rescinded, because you might have to start the season, or at least start training camp, kind of with with rosters at status quo. I don't know why it's taken this long, other than the billable hours that the law firms are, kind of taking advantage of right now. But it is going much, much longer than anyone anticipated, and it's really thrown a wrench into two teams at least planning for the next season here.
At this point, we're preparing obviously for the 2026-27 season. So if you had to shade it, we've gone through, I think, in the course of the NBA, in its history, stretches where you feel like it's more about offense than defense, and other stretches where you feel like it's more about defense than offense. If you were asked that question now, where is the emphasis today? Is it impossible to answer? Is it always a combination of both, or is it shaded right now the way the rules are, the way the rules are called, the way the game is played, and even maybe the way the game is coached? Is it shaded one way or the other right now, do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question and a decent kind of thing to think about right now. I do think we are kind of shading a little bit more toward offense. I mean, when you look at what the Knicks were able to do to the Spurs and to the greatest defensive player that's ever put on shoes in Wembanyama, I mean, I think what the Knicks did well in that series was they were able to spread that defense out. They were able to move the ball, get great shots, shoot over the top of the Spurs, and that really made the difference in that finals. Of course, the Knicks played good defense as well, but I think that the overpowering characteristic of that team was the synchronicity it had offensively. And I think in some ways that is what the Timberwolves are betting on a little bit with this new look roster and this new configuration. Is, they were kind of towards the forefront of the wave previously when they went Cat and Rudy in the front court and they went big, and they're saying, hey, we're actually going away from small ball here. We're going to use some bully ball and try and overpower teams that way. And more teams started to fall in line with that. But now I think the Wolves look at it as, hey, we actually are going to get a little smaller. We're going to get a little shiftier. We're going to have more playmakers and better shooters, and see if we can use all of that to our advantage against Oklahoma City, against San Antonio in the West, two great defensive teams, and just see if that's the key here. Because I do think that the way the game is whistled, the way that the rules are set up, it does kind of point on the side of the offensive team. And if the Wolves can kind of take advantage of that, maybe teams will start swinging back the other way a little bit.
Jonny Athletic, kind enough to join us. We're getting, as you know, closer and closer to football training camp, and you're going to have to, pay attention to a couple of other things besides the National Basketball Association. And it's interesting because today a story reared its head again with us that has sort of been a recurring theme, but it's you never know when it's going to sort of reemerge. And that is an interview, I guess it's a podcast that Chris Carter does, in which he theorizes that basically part of the reason that the Vikings made the move on Kwesi is that the J.J. McCarthy concept was really more spearheaded by the general manager, and that the coach had to sort of be brought along. Now, that goes contrary to everything I believe, and basically everything that I have been told by the media jackals who cover this team on a regular basis. So are we missing something here? Is this something that maybe he wants to believe? Maybe it's what he's heard, because it continues to confound me, the efforts to try to sort of protect KOC, not from the drafts in general, but from significant input, and I would even say maybe majority input on the decision to draft J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that more people within the organization talk to me than they do Chris Carter. Like, I mean, he's a legend. He is around the team a lot. I'm sure he has very blunt conversations with anyone in his orbit because he doesn't, mind, ruffling feathers or hurting feelings or anything like that. And so, there could be something to the idea that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, as a more analytical general manager, wanted to maximize their roster building apparatus by having a quarterback on a rookie deal and not paying Sam Darnold, an incredible amount of money and using those resources elsewhere. There's no doubt that had to have come up in the conversations about their plans, but you cannot tell me with a straight face that Kevin O'Connell, the quarterback whisperer, the genius developer of quarterbacks, and I think he's a great coach. I think he does a great job with this stuff, but you cannot tell me that he sat idly by and watched someone else decide how they were going to go forward at the most important position in professional sports, and also the position that happens to be his expertise. Like, there's just no scenario that I can absorb and accept that said that he was this willing bystander that got this forced down his throat. I'm sorry. Like, that just does not, none of that computes with how we know how influential Kevin O'Connell is in roster management, how much say that he has, especially with quarterback play. And so I just really find it hard to believe that was all Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, that Kevin O'Connell fought it tooth and nail the whole way and got overruled by it, and then was stuck with J.J. McCarthy last season. It just really is hard for me to accept that.
Yeah, it's just counter to every indication that we have been given. And in fact, we have the head coach himself on the record a couple times as saying over the course of the last several years, hey, I know everybody's eager about the quarterback, but I have stepped in and I've been the veto guy on several quarterbacks. His point being, we're not going to do it just to do it. And that tells me that was the distinction, was now he's saying I'm on board with this. So it's just fascinating to me that it keeps coming up. Although I mentioned earlier in the show, I think it's a direct function of the dysfunction at the position. That if let's say that Kyler Murray's great this year, or let's say Kyler gets hurt early and JJ plays well, I think there'll be less interest in the pass then. But as long as there is no present at the quarterback position and a feeling that there's no future because we're not solving it, then I think there's more of a tendency to scratch the itch about how do we get here? Well, who is really behind that? Or how do we explain that? Or how do we explain we let Daniel Jones out of the building? All that stuff builds because there's no oxygen regarding the position and the guys that you have here now. And that's why it's so important for them to finally one of these guys to emerge.
Dan, one thing on that too. I'm glad you brought up Daniel Jones. So I think a lot of the reporting and what Daniel Jones has himself said is that he left to go to Indianapolis because he believed that there was a clearer path to a starting job there.
Correct.
Shane Steichen's a very good coach as well. Are you telling me that the writing was on the wall that if he thought that Kevin O'Connell was not bought in on J.J. McCarthy at that point, that he wouldn't have stuck around here with Justin Jefferson,
exactly,
with T.J. Hawkinson, with all of these weapons? Like, if it was any part up in the air, but it's clear to me that he also thought, hey, KOC is behind J.J. McCarthy here, so how am I going to do that? How am I going to get in front of that? And so that's just another detail or nugget that says that KOC was on board with this plan going into last year as well. Even if, you could argue, I think KOC probably would be well within his right to say, well, we should have had a backup plan that was a little better. Maybe that was out of his control. But Danny Jones left in part because he did not see a pathway here. And if the head coach wasn't as involved with it, I think it would have been a lot easier for him to stick around and try and win that job.
That's the self-fulfilling part, I think, is he might have a right as a head coach to say we didn't give ourselves a plan B, but if you're the guy who is giving the impression to Daniel Jones that this is not going to be a competition. They want JJ to be the guy. Then it's going to be pretty hard to keep Daniel Jones. In fact, I think some of the reporting indicates we actually offered him an extra $1 a year, but that in the end it was about opportunity. And maybe that was the mistake, not doing a better job of saying, you come back here, we're not guaranteeing anything to anybody. And that includes J.J. McCarthy. But everything they said, I think, all the body language was, all right, we're ready. We're finally ready to move forward with our long-term guy. We're not going to wait any longer. We think he can make the jump quick. And they obviously thought that his floor was not going to be as low as it was to the early part of last season. And so even that, I don't know how much of that you could put on Kwesi if every indication Jones is getting is that, well, they may think that I have a chance, but I know what they want. And I know the other place, they're getting tired of their young quarterback in Indianapolis already. Well, these guys aren't tired of JJ yet because he hasn't really played.
Yeah, exactly, Dan. And you know, the quote that I always bring up with Kevin O'Connell when it comes to JJ McCarthy or Carson Wentz or whoever is, you know, he has said it multiple occasions, quarterbacks don't fail organizations, organizations fail quarterbacks. And so there has always been very much a high confidence and belief within O'Connell, within the staff, within the team in general, that if we have a great incubator here, if you just give us the chance to get this quarterback in, we can make it work. And I do think that was a lot of the confidence that went into their decision last year with JJ McCarthy, and just like, no, we've got this. Like, we will help him. We have the weapons around him. We've seen enough from him, at least kind of in the film room, that he's going to be okay. And that's the way they went forward. And that is why Daniel Jones went to Indianapolis rather than stick around, is because of how committed he felt they were to him.
The oral history I'd like to see at some point from you or somebody at The Athletic is trying to tell that story a little more objectively, with a little less emotion now that, and maybe more honesty now that more time has elapsed. Because is it possible that the disconnect, somebody's mentioning this, and I guess this is possible. All right, we can't keep Jones, but is it possible there's a disagreement on, well, we got to go out and get somebody better than we got from Seattle? I can't remember the name of the quarterback we got late, or that we got via trade, and then we didn't like him so much we ended up going out. Sam Howell, thank you. We ended
Sam
up
Howell
with
from
Carson,
Washington,
yeah, with Carson Wentz. Maybe that's the disagreement. I don't even know who other veterans that were out there that would have been better than either of those guys. I guess that's possible. That maybe Kwesi's on one side of that, and the head coach is on another. But it's the story I'd really like told sometime more completely than it's been, because I feel like it's in bits and pieces. And as you well know, there's a trap that we all have a difficult time not falling into when one big name guy, whether it's a player or in this case a GM or a coach, is fired. Once that guy's out the door, it's almost open season on him, and he's held responsible for some stuff that he should be held responsible for, and some stuff he had nothing to do with. But because he can't defend himself or he's moved on, it becomes too easy to make that person the villain on stuff that is really sort of beyond what he actually was responsible for.
100% that does happen. And because the people who stay behind are the ones to tell the story, right? History is written by the winners. And so sometimes that is difficult as a reporter to kind of wade through some of that. But I am on board with you on that, in that I don't think it's as cut and dried as Kwesi was the only bad guy and the only one that was making all of these mistakes, and everyone else was just kind of dragged along unwillingly. I think that he gave Kevin O'Connell a lot of input. I think that there was a lot of discussions about this going forward. And the other thing so far, Dan, that I'm not so super comfortable with how all of this is being framed by some people, you know, who are looking at this situation as if like JJ McCarthy is a complete flop and it's already over.
I agree with you there.
He's had one season and been a little bit banged up. But you and I both watched Christian Ponder a lot. That guy was in over his head right away.
Yes.
JJ's he's had some moments, and I'm not comfortable with saying this was a complete embarrassment and he is done and he has no chance. Like, I would like to give the kid a little bit more time before we bury him.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. And whether that'll play off into a real competition where if he looks better than expected, they'll reconsider their plan, which is clearly to have Kyler start. I don't know. That remains to be seen, but it's coming soon now, man. It's right around the corner now.
It is. That in the State Fair, man, will be here before we know it.
Yeah, I wish none of you Jackals how many of you Jackals have tried to contact Kwesi? Well, now he's with another team, so chances are he didn't want to get in any of this at this point. That's probably a no-win situation for him.
Well, I know our guy Alec has tried a few times to no avail, and that's actually, Dan, where I might actually have a little bit of respect for Kwesi here, because he was not exactly media friendly here, certainly wasn't engaging with, playing the game a whole lot. But to his credit, I don't think out the door he is slinging arrows either. He's just like, I'm moving on. I'm not going to, burn any bridges or bear anyone off the record or anonymously or anything like that. I'm just going to go do my own thing. And if that's who you are, that's who you are. Just be that both ways. Don't, like, now that you need maybe a little image repair, come looking for some help that way. So, yeah, he's been very, very quiet. Maybe it will come out. Maybe there will be some big piece in the Athletic or elsewhere as the season approaches. But so far, to my knowledge, he's kept a very low profile, just as he did when he was in the job here.
Johnny, let's meet at the Mona Lisa in the Louvre later this summer, shall we?
Oh man, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yes, and we'll check that out, and then we'll go and watch a little bit of workouts with LaMelo throwing lob passes to Rudy, and then we'll maybe have some croissants or something at a bakery in the French Meadow. That'd be wonderful.
Here's what I want to do. I want to put a beret on. I want to have a bag with about like 6 French loaves. Just 6. That's all I want.
You're missing the alliteration. It's Barrero in a beret with a bag of baguettes.
There you go. Baguettes even better.
Yeah, it's something like that. That's the AI picture that Josh Bratton will probably be sending me very shortly.
That's very true. By the way, Dan,
the greatest thing about that, Dan, is like, you see, people do. They walk around with their baguettes, and I think in general the French are pretty slim. Like they're in good shape, right? Like, so I think maybe they've shown that maybe carbs aren't that bad for us at all, after all. And if in moderation you have a baguette once a day, maybe that's good for you.
You don't think there's any fat Frenchmen, huh?
I mean, I'm sure there are a few over there, but I think in general, if we're stereotyping,
I'm surprised,
maybe a little on the slimmer side
they got so many
than some of us over here.
They got a lot of rich sauces, though, so it's interesting that they would still be slim.
And cheeses and stuff, right? Yeah. Wine and cheeses, but
they're made
they figure out a way to do it. I need to go over there and get some tips.
Dan Minnesota just ripped you. Did I just hear weapons like T.J. Hawkinson?
I mean, maybe it's more theoretical at this point, but he's highly paid.
Yeah, that's true.
He should be talented, and maybe it's more of a challenge to him, if he's listening to this, to become a weapon again. Because it's been a little while since we've seen 87 making any difference down the field.
Have a wonderful week. We'll chat soon. Thanks, Johnny.
All right, thanks, Dan.
John Krasinski joining us as he does every Monday. He joined us a little bonus time last week when the LeBron news broke on Friday's show, too. We got a lot of good texts coming in on a number of controversies, and maybe even one other story that I wouldn't call, I don't think this one should be polarizing, but I'm sure somebody will find a way to make it so, or either that or blame Caitlin Clark for it. That also when we return.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barrero on The Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Minnesota.
Number of theories being advanced regarding the proliferation of thin Frenchmen and women. And they all relate it to smoking.
What?
Percentage-wise, Is there a lot greater percentage of French adults who smoke than U.S. adults?
I'd guess yes, percentage-wise, just on the reputation. I've never been there, but that seems to be a stereotype.
I wonder if that's true.
So rather than eat, you smoke.
Yeah, that's it. And because that's how a lot of people here back in the smoking days controlled their weight.
Yeah. I had the worst of both worlds. I was a fat smoker. It was tough.
That's a double whammy.
Tough out there.
That's a double whammy.
Yeah, it was tough for me back then.
There's no question about that. Did you see the story? I know someone will find a way to make it political, even though I don't think it's intended to be all that political. And I preface this by saying that I almost hesitate to quote from it because I do feel like we get another study on stuff like this every 6 months. And often the latest study contradicts the previous study. And so I think even if you're someone who tries to pay attention to health and whatever, it becomes confusing. You get very conflicting messages about, well, actually, this is better than we thought it was. Or actually, this is a lot worse for you than we thought it was. Latest example, according to I believe this is the American Heart Association.
Pretty legit.
5 cups of coffee a day is perfectly fine for most adults.
I did see this.
5 cups up to 5 cups of coffee a day are safe. That is an American Health Association scientific statement. In fact, they may even have benefits for heart health. Downing between about 3 to 5 8-ounce cups of Joe daily, or around 400 milligrams of caffeine, is linked to a lower risk of heart disease, heart failure, stroke, and type 2 diabetes, according to the AHA statement. Now, I thought in other studies we've been told caffeine is bad for you. Not lethal, necessarily, but not particularly good for you, that you should try to keep your caffeine under control. This seems to be saying the opposite, and in fact, they acknowledge in this Wall Street Journal piece, and this is my point, the research on coffee and caffeine have been very mixed. Some studies showing links to benefits, and others showing health risks. So the claim here is that this new statement gives us tries to clear up the confusion. They quote a cardiologist out of New York. Not only is the lay public confused about this topic, but many clinicians out there don't know how to guide their patients. That's very honest. I like hearing that from the doctor. We could even be recommending soon that people have coffee. But then I would say to the doctor, Dr. Eugenia Gianos, Gianos, well, if you acknowledge it's confusing, why is this the final word? Why is this the last word? Is there going to be another study in 6 months that says if you drink as many as 5 cups of coffee, sooner or later your left leg will be shorter than the right leg?
I don't know. It's tough to keep track. You can find something for any potential vice that you may have.
I think you can. They're claiming that a number of the trials are more scientifically rigorous in recent years, and that's why they feel confident that they've got it right this time. Scientists are still trying to figure out why the caffeine in coffee might help the heart. People tend to exercise more on the days they have caffeinated coffee.
Interesting.
Coffee acts as a diuretic and can lower blood pressure. Caffeine also blocks a substance that can cause atrial fibrillation, an arrhythmia that can lead to strokes.
Not good.
So now it's starting to sound like one of these miracle drugs.
Right. Which one? What do we believe, though? Which side of that?
I don't know. That's the thing. Coffee contains other substances that seem to be beneficial for health. Now, here's my question. When they say coffee, do they mean coffee, or can it be a foo-foo drink?
Right.
Because latte has coffee in it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But
you wonder, are they talking straight black like I like it?
That's
or,
true.
Muddied up a little bit like you guys do?
The other substances that seem to be beneficial for health include polyphenols that might act as antioxidants and reduce inflammation, which could explain why in some studies decaf coffee is also associated with lower risks of type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Well, no, wait, so now I'm confused. Now that's decaf coffee is not the same as coffee.
It's not. It's not supposed to be.
So then they're cheating on the study. They say, well, coffee's it might even lower diabetes. Well, in this case, it's decaf coffee. There's got to be some precision to this thing, or it leaves people, as you say, very confused. The scientific research suggests that the sweet spot for caffeinated coffee consumption is generally between 2 and 4 cups a day. And as you say, I don't see anything in here about, cream and sugar. I'm a big almond milk guy with my foo-foo drink. There's other options there, too. There's oat milk, etc. Here's the kicker. The potential benefits of coffee can be diluted or eliminated by the stuff many people add to it, like sugar, syrups, and creamers with a lot of saturated fat.
Remember that Louis story?
Yeah.
Getting coffee, and the heart doctor behind him, like, Louis, what are you doing? I'm putting sugar in. He goes, that'll kill you.
Yeah.
Like, never did sugar again.
Was it sugar? I thought it was the creamer.
Might have been cream.
It might have been cream. That non-dairy creamer.
Yeah. He said, you'll be dead.
But what if I'm using almond milk or oat milk? Is that okay?
I think. The coffee cabal certainly makes you believe that it is, right?
Yeah.
Because they're selling it big time.
The AHA statement also looked at caffeine consumed in other ways, like energy drinks. The authors noted that energy drinks often contain much higher amounts of caffeine than coffee, and some research has found that consuming them can lead to health problems, including irregular heartbeats and high blood pressure. They advise people to avoid those products. And I think, energy drinks are huge now, aren't they? Big time.
Have been for a while. Yeah.
And don't energy drinks have a lot of sugar in them?
I would imagine yes, because it's crazy.
This is controversial as I can take it. Let's pause.
You're listening to Barrero on The Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by...
Door Wrap is presented by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
Coffee without Kemp's? That might be a Louis Burner account. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Speaking of sugar and drinks, do either of you ever drink the Pop Surge, which used to have over 50 grams of sugar? I never even heard of it.
Huge when I was a kid.
Was it?
Like a teenager. I could never bring myself to do it. I think I was knowingly doing enough damage with incessant Mountain Dew drinking that I didn't think there should be a level above Mountain Dew for teenage Gaardsy. Like, that felt like enough. Did I really need Surge? Yeah, even me. Wow. Not exactly the dean of discipline. Like, do I really need Surge? A lot of my friends, though, they loved Surge. I did not like it. Didn't trust it.
Alan and Afton, here's the political angle you were looking for from a Jets perspective. How can we believe any medical research or science under this administration that tried to eliminate vaccines and demonize science? Not my perspective, but you were thinking this wouldn't be political. Well played. Well imagined.
Should we do that? Should we, for like a week, just grab every story and try to find a way to politicize it?
Maybe we should.
Just the dumbest story possible.
It wouldn't be that difficult.
You're right. It's probably not that good of a thought exercise. It's probably easier than we thought.
Well, the sad part is people would believe it. They wouldn't get the satire of it, but it's worth considering. I want to thank Jonny Athletic, who joined today. I wanted to thank the WNBA community, who gave us yet more material, as Caitlin Clark got admonished yet again, in this case for having the audacity to actually let her hair down just a wee bit. But she got knocked back to the moon. No question about that. That was early in the show. That was